Alright, so welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on this unusual Rivarossi E8. So let me show you how this thing runs. Alright, I've got the engine set up on the track. I'll give the thing some power. And all I've got is an overload. Wiggling it doesn't seem to do anything. When I was testing this thing out with the person who gave it to me, which we will talk about in a second, it was sparking and it was not running well, so I'm assuming it's got some sort of odd electrical issue. So let's take it over to the desk and we will talk about that and then get into it. Alright, so it's time for a little bit of backstory on this engine. Just yesterday, which I am filming this on a Sunday, this happened on Saturday, and basically there was a new prospective member at the club I'm part of who just wanted to ask to see if any of their engines that had been sitting for quite a long time could be converted to DCC, and how old they even were, which most of them turned out to be Athearn Blue Box. We had fun testing them all out. They had apparently been engines that were sitting for a long time, but they were all painted for this railroad, the ASC, and we couldn't figure it out. So what we ended up doing is we asked he asked the person who gave him the trains what they are, and basically the story we got is that he painted these engines custom as a teenager in the 1970s and 80s, and they were passed down apparently. So it's pretty cool. And this one was given to me simply because it was not a good candidate for DCC according to all of us. Since everything else is blue box, it's got smaller flanges, it's got better motors, and it's just significantly easier to convert to DCC. So this one is actually going to be mine. And as you saw, this thing had an electrical problem. I've opened the thing up before when we were testing everything out to see if there was anything obvious, and there isn't. So now we get to go into this engine and try and figure out what my electrical issue is. So let me get straight into this. And while I'm opening this thing up, I do also want to mention the paint on this shell isn't actually perfect. I'll get it up close in a second once we get all these, well, not all, both of these two screws out of here. There are a few little imperfections with it, but for someone who did this in the 1970s, more than likely, it's not bad at all. So these screws here are going to fall out. I'll set this aside, and I can show you the shell quickly. So there are a few little defects, like on here. You can see where it's kind of cracking. It's a little difficult to see, but there's a few little paint mishaps here and there, which, again, nothing wrong with that. This was a teenager's project in the 1970s and 80s with a cheap airbrush and decals, supposedly from Wisconsin, the only place he could get them at the time. So I don't have much of a high standard for the thing, and in all honesty, I think it's a really cool looking engine. It's got a lot of interesting things with it too. It's got this stuff in the shell. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to leave it there, because I think there's been a little bit of custom work done to this thing, minus just the paint. So it's a cool engine, and now we'll get the shell out of the way, because we won't have to deal with that for the rest of the video, and we can go into just trying to figure out what my issue is. Alright, with all that out of the way, I might have actually found our issue immediately, and it's something so simple, I don't know how I missed it. I think it could be this light. I think, it will be really hard to see, but I think the bottom of the light might be contacting this metal plate, and that might be causing a short circuit. It looks close, so I don't know if it is, but there might actually be a chance that that's the cause of our issues. So I'm just going to try and bump this thing back into place, which that'll be quite dumb if that was the problem this whole time, and I managed to miss it while we were testing these. But I'm just going to go test it out like this and see if that actually fixed the problem. Alright, so that light was not the main issue, and I have actually found the main issue, and it's so much simpler than I thought it was. These wheels on Rivarossi's, one truck picks up one direction, the other picks up on the other direction. And if you can't tell, one of them's actually got a bigger plastic bit inside. I don't know why, I forget which direction it goes. But if you look really, really closely, you can see these two are the same, that one's different. And then on this end, these two are the same, and that one's different. So I think for both of these trucks, I've got to flip the first axle around. So I'm going to try and do that with the first truck first, because this one looks like the harder truck to actually access. I don't think I actually had to take this out on my other Rivarossi E8, which is an engine that I fixed up a while ago. So we'll see if I can do this right. Does not look the easiest thing to do. I wonder how it got in there backwards in the first place. So now, I guess I've got to figure out if I can pry this bottom piece off. Okay, that was easier than I thought it would be. I thought this bottom piece was riveted in. It might actually be, but let's see if I can pull this thing out. Funnily enough, I don't have access to the one wheel I need to get to yet. You know what, I'm just gonna grab a pair of pliers and see if that helps, so I will be back in a moment. Alright, I guess I've got to resort to drastic measures to actually, fix my issue here. See if this will even work. Actually, you know what, while I'm in here, because I am not opening this unit back up again, I'm going to just throw a little bit of oil in here. It might use a good clean out or something, but I really do not want to deal with getting in this truck ever again. It doesn't seem all that bad. There is a little bit of dirt and stuff in here. So, you know what? I'm gonna get some Q-tips and rubbing alcohol. I'll clean the thing out, because why not? I'm not going to be opening this truck up again. I'm gonna go see if I can just find a small hammer or something, because this truck is being ridiculously annoying. Alright, so it's now a little bit of time later, and I have finished up with this truck. This was actually a pain. I ended up gluing the ends just to make sure it wouldn't fall apart. And I also removed the coupler box, because that's something I needed to do. I'm gonna do it on the other truck as well when we get to it. But now I think, hopefully this means I can screw this truck back on, and we can start on the other one, which, knock on wood, should not be as difficult as this was. Even though this is a powered truck and all that fun stuff, it probably won't be as difficult, but we'll see, because I don't know how my luck's gonna go. I believe with these Rivarossi units, you have to remove this little pin right in here. I believe that's what I had to do on my last E8, but we'll see. Actually, I'll get my pair of pliers again. You know what, I think we're gonna leave that alone for now, and all I'm gonna try and do is unscrew this truck from the bottom, see if we can get everything I need to access from here. If not, we'll figure this out, because I feel like this is just a little bit different than my other Rivarossi E8 was, which I haven't watched that video in quite a while. I'd recommend watching it, because I remember it being a pretty good video, especially if you want to see probably one of these in better shape and a different paint scheme, even though it's probably a really similar drive system. So I've got to remember that, first of all, this goes here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to remove everything from this drive system. Well, at least everything I can get out of here from this drive system. Useful to have tweezers around too. Just random tip. It's never really a bad thing. I always have tweezers around, or at least try to, and the times I don't is the times I need them. So I think to start, I'm just going to clean out this truck and hope that the issue that I discovered is actually the problem with this engine, because hopefully we can actually get some good work done to this thing. Alright, so now that I've got all these parts cleaned up, I think I'm going to take just a little bit of a break. I'm going to clean up a little bit. I'm going to get some traction tires out for these. I'll get grease and all that stuff out, and I'm going to swap out my microphone for a fully charged one. So I'll take a short break, and we'll be back to start putting this thing back together. Alright, so I'm back, and now what we can do is put some of my traction tires on this, which, if you want to learn about them, I do have an entire video just about the traction tires that I like to use and how I've upgraded some other engines with them. So go look for that if you want to learn more about them and where I got them. But these are what I use, so I'm going to be replacing the original Rivarossi traction tires with these. Usually Rivarossi engines are really good with their original traction tires, but this one was missing one, and the other one, I took it off, and it seemed kind of dry and just not elastic like new band would. So I just decided it needed new ones on both wheels. Alright, so I think those are on pretty good. So now I'll get some grease out, and we can start actually putting this whole truck back together, and then I think we can go test the thing out, and I feel like this is taking quicker than it should have, so we'll see if I did anything wrong. And I also need to oil the motor bearings too, that's what I'm forgetting. Alright, so I think at this point this engine's pretty much in its completed form, so I think all I've got to do is throw the shell on and then go test the thing out. And then after that, I believe I might end up doing just a little bit of coupler work and close out the video. Forgot it's got to go on like this. Alright, so the engine's now all back together and hopefully all in good shape, so I can go test the thing out now. Alright, so I've got the E8 all set up on the track, so let me give the thing some power and see if it'll hopefully run. And it sprung straight to life. Let's see if it's got reverse. It actually seems really good. Let the thing just do a lap. Yeah, I think that is a complete success. I'd run the thing more if I had a better layout and just get some more laps of it, and if it had couplers on it. So I think off camera I'll do some coupler work, but now let's go back to my desk and I'll close out the video. Alright, so I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.